You know, the good news, we often hear about how manufacturing is recovering. You know, we've run actually a lot of pieces on those ourselves. We get reports from various manufacturing industry organizations that manufacturing seems to be recovering. Well, our next guest doesn't necessarily buy it. In the column, just how healthy is the U.S. manufacturing job market, columnist AJ Sweatt writes, quote, I believe there are two elements that trump all the fluctuating Institute for Supply Management and Purchasing Managers Index surveys. It's all about the jobs and the people who fill them. Everything else is hooey.
Hooey.
Hooey. That's right. So joining us right now is the hooey man himself, AJ Sweatt. Good morning, AJ. Whoops, wait, we got to get some audio there for you. Hold on one second. All right, do we have you there, AJ?
As I was saying, I've been called worse.
The hooey man, the hooey man. Well, hey, let's jump right into it. All these rosy reports about manufacturing job growth are hooey. I mean, why do you say that?
Well, I say that because we're not seeing enough meaningful growth. Yes, there are green shoots of activity, although they're very sporadic. We'll see a few gains one month. We'll see losses the next. And while we're seeing some rosy reports, in the overall holistic health of the manufacturing job market, we're just not seeing the growth that we need to recover from 2008, and I'd argue since 2000.
Okay, well, is the implication of your story, or at least kind of what I got out of it, is you're drawing a distinction between manufacturing growth, let's say sales and so forth, and manufacturing jobs growth? Are you making a distinction there?
Absolutely. I think where we fall short is we're not looking at manufacturing holistically. For example, the fact that we look at manufacturing as an island, and it's not an island. For example, its effect on downstream jobs is significant. Some people estimate it as high as 3.5 or 4 jobs downstream that each manufacturing job influences or helps sustain or create. We also segregate manufacturing as a subset of the economy. And in the same way, it also influences so many other aspects of our economy. So yeah, I think we do get myopic about it. We look at industries and say, well, this one's growing, but overall, you know, we've gone from a high of just under 20 million jobs at manufacturing in 1980 to over 40% less than that today. And our growth since 2008, since 2000, has plummeted. So whatever small growth we're seeing really doesn't equate. So when I hear these positive stories, I think, yeah, you know, there's no greater pundit, or I shouldn't say pundit, but advocate for manufacturing than me. I mean, except for maybe you guys. And if you look at it though in the big picture, we're just not seeing a recovery.
Well, let's talk about the jobs a little bit here. I mean, you mentioned the figure that, you know, how many millions of jobs did you say in what was it?
40% down.
40% down. Okay. I think
if you look, right.
I think a lot of people would argue that that ship has kind of sailed. I mean, they would point to, look, part of the reason that manufacturing jobs are down is, number one, more and more automation. So we're not hiring people because we've got something that's more efficient than people to do certain types of jobs. And the other thing is, according to some accounts, there is a big deficit of skilled workers for certain types of manufacturing jobs that are slowly requiring a higher and higher skill set. So I'm just wondering, hasn't kind of the jobs thing failed? I mean, not failed, but hasn't that ship kind of sailed for manufacturing job growth? I mean, I don't think we'll ever get those people back.
Well, yeah, and never is a strong word. I'm not thinking that we're going to see everything switch over right away, but it's important to break the argument apart into manageable bites. For example, you mentioned automation. Where are the robots? Who's building the robots? I mean, I've seen the effect of automation on manufacturing, and it's significant. But you can't use automation to explain the plummeting from 16 million jobs in 2002 to 12 million jobs today with little growth. and then look at the capital equipment market and see that it's not recovered. Capital equipment sales in this country are way, way down from their highs in 1998. And if we're seeing all the automation purchased in this country, where's the impact on the capital equipment markets? To say that the ship sailed, I think, covers what really happened here. It's not a jobs issue. Jobs are a subset or a result of sound policies. And ultimately, our lack of a national industrial policy that includes focusing on industries and job growth is what's needed, not a focus on automation's impact or whether the ship has sailed.
So what are you seeing as a solution? If there was a jobs policy, what would you want to see in that?
Well, certainly we have to look at the fact that we're the only industrialized nation of any significance without an industrial policy that includes trade, for example. The belief that our trade policies are anything more than an invisible hand that allow the jobs to have left in the first place really overlooks the core of the problem. A policy has to include protections. And I get accused of being a protectionist sometimes. Well, I'm guilty of that. I think any sound, not just policy, but in every aspect of our lives involves protecting things. We need defense. I'm not advocating, it's not protectionism. I'm absolutely against isolationism. But a policy that includes employment, it includes immigration, that includes trade, has to be formulated with end goals in mind, rather than just letting it fluctuate by the whims of markets.
What about skills training? I mean, a manufacturing institute report estimated something like 600,000 manufacturing jobs are unfilled because of a skills gap. And actually, this is something that we get from our particular audience, or a subset of our audience, is that they don't have the right people that they can hire to fill the positions that they want. And these are manufacturing jobs, but they're, I guess, much more technical jobs. We're thinking things like pharma or high tech. So how do you deal with that kind of issue?
Wow, that's a really good one. I think, you know, of course, and I want to acknowledge the impact of automation on manufacturing is huge. And a lot of that transition to more automated systems and the management of those systems rather than hands-on manufacturing has resulted in a lag, if you will, of our ability to filter skilled people in those sets of abilities as opposed to a traditional, more manual set of abilities. But I think what also needs to be considered is what happened when the jobs began leaving in the 80s to go to low-cost countries. The human impact was that many young people had a talk with their parents in their dens or their dining rooms on an evening they will never forget, when the parent had to tell this child that the way of life that they were accustomed to was gone. So these kids watched their uncles and their aunts and their fathers and their friends' parents lose their jobs in manufacturing. And I think that it's something that we don't deal with enough, having a straight conversation amongst ourselves and with them to discuss what really happened and to help put in place things that we can do to help not only ensure that these things are protected, that our economy and this portion of our economy, very important portion of our economy, is protected, but also discusses with them why it happened and to help build some trust there. It's difficult, in short, to get somebody that's been wronged, fool me once, that sort of thing. So I think that has to be part of the debate too, Dirk.
Okay. Well, AJ, I appreciate you coming on the show and chatting with us. If anybody's interested in reading that particular article, it's on below the player page. If you want to read more articles by AJ, actually, if you scroll into his bio, I believe we link out to AJ's blog. A lot of really interesting things from AJ Sweatt. So, AJ, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys. Call your representatives, everybody, and demand an industrial policy for this country.
There you go.
Good call. Thank you, AJ.
Thanks.